I think we are ready to start. We have a very packed schedule and a lot of interesting discussions planned for today. So very, very good afternoon to everyone. I see almost 115 people are joining us today. And very, very warm welcome to the information meeting for the track 1, which is safeguarding heritage collections, living traditions, and practices in the face of disasters, extreme weather, and complex emergencies, as part of the READY initiative, which is an initiative conceived by ICCROM's flagship program, First Aid and Resilience for Cultural Heritage in Times of Crisis, with the partnership of the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, DGESC, and funded by the European Union through its Creative Europe program. My name is Mohana, and I'm the project coordinator for READY, and I will be moderating today's session. And joining me today for hosting this event is Ms. Aparna Tandon, the Senior Program Leader of ICCROM's FAR program, who is spearheading and leading the READY initiative, and my colleague Jui Ambani, the Program Officer at ICCROM and the Training Coordinator for READY. We are absolutely thrilled to see so many of you from representing so many diverse backgrounds join us today. It really highlights the importance of this work that we are doing, and hopefully we will do together with you all. So again, a very warm welcome. Before we start, I'll just walk you through some housekeeping rules. We would like for you to keep your microphones muted while the discussion is going on, so as to let our speakers also speak freely. But if you have questions, of course, you please put that in the chat, or you keep a note of it, and we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this discussion. I will quickly walk you through the agenda of the day. So what are we going to do today in the next 1.5 hours? We will start with a very short interactive session, and we shared this link with you yesterday, and some of you have also inserted your inputs. Very much appreciated, and we will see how it reflects on the graph. Then we will have an introduction to READY, so what it is about, what is the training structure, the phases, what is the benefit of such a training, how you can apply the training and the knowledge that you will gain from the training in your work, and overall the learning outcomes and the essence of READY. It will be captured by Aparna Tandon, and I will shortly hand it over to her. The next step would be to guide you to the step-by-step process of how to apply. So we did receive many questions from interested applicants. They had some doubts. So the aim is to clarify those systematically, clearly, so you can proceed to the next step and apply for READY Track 1. Then we have a very interesting panel discussion planned, where we are bringing some of our past participants, so part of our alumni network, and they will be sharing with us what they learned from the course, why did they want to apply to the course, and how did they, such a training, how did they apply their knowledge in bringing change on the ground after such a training. And finally, we have some dedicated time for Q&A, where we will take in any outstanding questions that our audience has to systematically answer them and to help you with your application process. So starting with the first part of the session, jumping on to the poll. So my colleague Jui will be sharing with you the link, and I will be sharing with you some of the answers that we have already received, but we are really eager to hear more from you. So I hope you have the link. Take some time, of course. You need to access the link in the chat. Oh, lovely. I already see responses. So the first aspect was, what are the biggest threats to your heritage? And as we see, most of you have answered natural hazards. Climate change is clearly a major issue. And lack of maintenance, slow degradation is also something that was raised in this part of the question. So keep filling. I love how the graphs are moving. The second part of this poll was, do you have access to tools for assessing, managing the risks to your heritage? And very clearly it has come out that either there are some tools, but they're not easily accessible, or the majority of the answer is that we do lack the necessary tools. And I think it's something that we will address deeply in the ready training. The third question was, do you collaborate with civil protection, disaster risk management authorities, and other stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, to enhance heritage preservation and emergency response? And the answer is, majority of you said that although there are some informal collaborations, but it definitely needs to be improved, formalized, and strengthened. So with that, I hope that you will keep filling these polls, the ones who have not participated or have some issues accessing the link. Thank you very much for sharing your inputs. And this will, I think, really help us to, tailor our training to the needs on the ground, and also to bridge some crucial gaps in the field. And let's see how Ready aims to do that. And with this, I would like to invite Aparna to kindly share with us what Ready is all about, and also her vision for Ready.
Thank you, Mohana. A very good afternoon to all the partners, some of our resource people, as well as prospective applicants of the Ready Track 1, Safeguarding Cultural Heritage from Disasters, Extreme Weather Events, and Complex Emergencies. It's the whole project, but the Track 1 is specifically focused on movable heritage and intangible heritage. As just came out in the poll, we are entering, as the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said, an era of global boiling, where extreme temperatures, we have already crossed the 1.5 marks, 1.5 degrees centigrade mark. Our Earth is warming at an unprecedented pace, and it's evident in the wildfires. Right now, as I speak, there are wildfires going on in South Korea. And we have heard about I'm sure every one of you has also experienced them in Europe and in Hawaii, for example, in 2023, and then the LA wildfires in 2025. The risk was amplified by high winds, warm temperatures, and very low humidity and dry vegetation. So a compound risk event, which was not events that were not, factored in risk assessments. Similarly, we've had flash floods in Valencia, Spain, where a lot of heritage was damaged. So it's not only about disruption of infrastructure or damage to property, but it's also the very essence of what makes, the very essence of what makes a society, which is cultural heritage, that is destroyed, damaged, sometimes irreparably lost in these events. We have also seen unprecedented scale of disasters in the earthquake in Turkey and Syria in 2023, where there was a large-scale, massive destruction, and there was an unimaginable loss to cultural heritage in this area. There are studies that are increasingly pointing out the connection between conflict and disaster and how one leads to another. And there seems to be an overlap between this. And this is why we have conceived, with the support of the European Union, Ready. Ready is 38-month cascading capacity development project, which will have 3 tracks for training. And we are today going to talk about track 1, which is safeguarding heritage collections, living traditions and practices in the face of disasters, extreme weather events, and complex emergencies. Who can apply in this first track? Professionals who are committed to safeguarding living traditions, knowledge, practices, and heritage collections in diverse contexts such as museums, archives, libraries, but collections also are in community-based organizations that are held within, there are community-based archives, there are also churches, religious places where we have collections. And we are also therefore targeting cultural bearers and community leaders committed to protecting at-risk movable and living heritage. We are also looking at trying to bring in experts from civil protection, disaster risk management, climate change adaptation, fire risk management, and emergency response. So a broad range who are interested in safeguarding cultural heritage. So they must, because their job is so wide ranging. So people who are working in these sectors but are interested in extending in safeguarding cultural heritage, we invite them to join the Ready Track 1. Now, what will participants learn? At the outset, I would like to say that this course is open to all of the Creative Europe participating countries. And within and beyond EU, there has been a lot of progress in developing tools as well as methods for safeguarding heritage from the impacts of disasters, conflicts, and now increasingly it's an emerging topic from climate change. We are, through the Ready Track 1, trying to bring all this together in a space which is accessible, is inclusive, and builds on what has already been laid as a solid foundation. So what will some of the key questions this training is going to really answer is how might we protect heritage from violent conflicts or large-scale disasters? And here we are talking about some of the risk events that I have mentioned. These are compound risk events, and they are increasingly involving greater and more damage to cultural heritage. A connected question is prevention possible and affordable? Can we, within the heritage field, without compromising values related to heritage, aim for prevention? And would it be within our means? When is the right time to intervene after a disaster or a conflict? Immediate aftermath or during early recovery when all life saving is over and needs of the food, water, shelter needs have been met? So these are some of the questions that again and again surface. How to intervene, how to contain damage, reduce risks, ongoing risks, and buy time until specialized help is available. Cultural heritage is a specialized sector, and sometimes we do need the help of experts, not sometimes, all the time, we need the help of experts. But what can local communities do within their given means, and how can we meaningfully engage them? How might we transfer such skills to mainstream emergency actors? And there is a lot of effort that is going on within Europe and beyond Europe to bring in armed forces, civil protection, disaster risk management specialists to come and work within the heritage sector and also consider heritage sector when they are planning, making disaster risk management plans. And how could we also engage local communities in the heritage safeguard, which I already mentioned, and how to tap into traditional knowledge for disaster risk reduction and heritage safeguard, as well as climate change adaptation. Because we do not want to come across as a sector that's only consuming resources. Heritage is also a source of resilience for the society. And how do we enhance that potential of cultural heritage while gathering support for its safeguard from complex disasters and armed conflicts. So the first thing that our participants to addressing these questions, the first thing that we will be focusing on in this training is give and to ensure that we understand how our participants have been addressing risk or assessing risk, evaluating risk in their own context. And building on that knowledge, we would like to enhance their existing knowledge and skills for undertaking comprehensive and integrated risk assessments that focus on conflicts, disasters, as well as extreme weather events and accidental fires. And we hope that the cohort that we will have will be multidisciplinary. So the group will actually work with itself. And the idea is that everyone brings some knowledge, and together we build a methodology that is viable for all. ICCROM has already developed some methods and tools that will be introduced, but again, the training will be tailored to the needs of the participants, and that's why your motivation letter is so important to us. The other skill that participants will have after taking this training is engaging communities in heritage risk assessment, identifying local knowledge and traditions, and also that can help in reducing disaster risk or adapting to a changing climate, and also engage local communities in recognizing the value of heritage. So this is again, we have developed some very successful tools which we will be bringing to this training. When we are talking about compound risk scenarios, like the one that I have already mentioned, like the LA fires or the flash floods in Valencia, it's very important that these, when we assess risk to heritage against such events, we involve the local civil protection and disaster management authorities. How to do that? How to even engage and gathering some data, which is geospatial data or specialized data that they might have, which could help us in understanding how my city or my town, my village is at risk, and how in that my heritage could be at risk. So this kind of an understanding and knowledge and skills are an integral, and in fact will form a core component of the upcoming training. There's also the aspect of understanding how heritage could be targeted in an ongoing conflict situation, or sometimes the conflict is not visible, it's underneath the surface, and what interaction or interplay between heritage and conflict. Again, we have developed some tools, some methods, which will be making our risk assessment component richer, and we will be sharing that with our participants through real life case studies. It's very important that we do not talk about risk in abstraction. How to visualize and communicate risks to important stakeholders to enhance prevention and emergency preparedness, and to gather support from decision makers. This will be a very important part of the training, because after the training, we would like our participants to become risk advocates, people who can clearly communicate risks to the heritage, to associated communities, and manage to get funding and other resources within their communities to manage those risks adequately. Another skill that will be at the core of this training is designing cost-effective and tailored solution for disaster risk, for reducing disaster risk. That is developing cost-effective risk mitigation strategies, and not only focusing on gathering finances or waiting for finances. What can you do with no money? What can you do with little funds? What will you do with in 6 months' time with some additional funding? And so we would like to, through this training, pass a core message that sometimes the solution is right, before our eyes, and it's just that we need the skills and we need the ability to sometimes listen to our community or to some of the people who are staff members who work with us to develop these cost-effective and innovative risk mitigation solutions. And yes, that does not mean that we will not be talking about technology or avant-garde solutions, but our focus would be on what we can do with what we have now and how we can take incremental steps for improving risk management in and around our heritage places. Associated with this whole idea of prevention is preparedness. And how do we prepare for emergencies, unforeseen emergencies? Even though if we have taken some measures to reduce the risk, there can always be residual risk. So in this training, you will get very concrete skills, knowledge, and tools for early action, early warning, and even evacuating collections under emergency conditions and within very limited means, sometimes with outside actors, external actors such as armed forces or civil protection, as you can see in this picture. And again, we will also be focusing on some skills and tools for assessing risks to intangible heritage and recording of oral histories for intergenerational transfer, as well as using that knowledge for adapting to a changing climate. And I'm sorry for the spellings there, changing climate and reducing risks. We will also be working on it's a very important aspect that when we have level 3 emergencies or extreme level of emergencies, we need the help of external emergency actors. How do we work with them? How do we work in a coordinated way with military, with civil protection? And that means understanding how emergency management systems nationally and locally, how do they work? How are they structured? What are the key aims of these emergency management actors in an unfolding crisis situation? And what can we do to prepare in advance so that in our hour of need, we can approach them with concrete ideas for asking for help, for logistical support, for communication, for other aspects. So just understanding the whole landscape of humanitarian aid during a crisis situation, what roles and responsibilities emergency management actors have, and how they can be engaged to safeguard heritage. This knowledge and skill will also be one of the key components of this training. And this will be done with live simulations. We will be also showing our participants, putting them in real life like situations on how to conduct damage and risk assessment after a big disaster or in the aftermath of an armed conflict or a conflict related event. And this includes estimating costs of that damage to define priorities for cultural heritage first aid. What are the next steps? And this would be in relation to movable heritage and living heritage. How do you estimate costs? And we will be introducing our application as well as tools, multilingual tools that we have developed, which are standardized field tested in several emergency situations. And this will be done through simulating emergencies, and so that participants have this feeling of real life situation, and that like if they are in such a situation, what would they do, what kind of precaution they have to take, how do they protect themselves first, and then work in hazardous areas. We will also have skills for emergency documentation, salvage, stabilization, and packing, like if you are in a situation. And again, the case studies, real examples of what other people have done in these situations will be very much, part of this. Here is
2 days ago,
simulation
a
from
bomb
another
went off
course.
at this World Heritage Site, and a group of about 20 cultural first aiders have arrived on the scene to assess the damage to that cultural heritage. They had to first negotiate with the military and make sure that they could have access to the site, and once they entered the site, unfortunately another bomb just went off.
So as you can see, we really set up situations.
They will be given 3 hours, and in those 3 hours, they have to negotiate access to the site with the military. There are injured people on the site. Those people will be evacuated, and our participants will have to work around all this confusion, working with these external actors to safeguard cultural heritage.
The key actors include the military, because if you get something like a security incident or a bombing where there have been deaths and there's a critical possibility of it being repeated, they are there. That's your first point of access, will be the military. Then you also have the Red Cross or Red Crescent. You have the medical and emergency services of the given country. But it's the military that they had to talk to first. And by doing so, they have to make themselves accessible. The military's job is security. It's not really heritage.
They had to negotiate with us because they wanted to reach the area where the cultural heritage was, and so they had to negotiate if they can go at the place, if the place is secure, and if there will be army who protect them doing their job.
We have to claim information for the people who are doing work.
The aim of the negotiation exercise in this type of scenario is first and foremost to enable the first aiders to have access to a site and to be respected as people who will make the situation better rather than worse. In this case, though, we also have multiple parties, so we have conflicts and fracture lines socially while the whole situation is going on. Then they also have to negotiate personal problems, political problems, and blockages to doing the work they need to do.
They have to understand what is the context, where the emergency has taken, so that's step one. Step two, they have to understand who are the actors, who are the people who are responding on the scene, and with whom they have to communicate. And after that, they have to follow some technical procedures. For example, they will have to do an on-site survey. They will have to carry out a damage assessment, followed by rapid documentation of the scene, where is cultural heritage, how many objects are damaged, what is the extent of damage. And after that, they will have to physically retrieve the items from the wreckage of the bombing and stabilize them, dry them out, and pack them and move them off to safe storage.
This is how, this is just an example of a simulation, but expect very different simulations, because we will be putting you, our participants, through different types of situations. And in fact, I can say that all of the in-person component of the course will be highly interactive, fully hands-on, skill-based, and we will be also including skills for recovery, post-crisis recovery of movable and intangible heritage, which includes setting up of open temporary storages for gathering resources for full recovery, planning for recovery, restoration. Similarly, for intangible heritage, this means perhaps restoring supply chain, conducting training workshops, skill diversification workshops. So all that will be part of the post-crisis recovery module. So as just to recap, we will start with risk assessment. We will go deeper into understanding how we can mitigate, we can reduce or prevent some of the risks. Then the course would move to emergency preparedness and response, giving some already building on the skills that participants already have or might have, and then moving on to post disaster or post conflict recovery, and how we can also use these moments for providing psychosocial support, either through engaging local communities, citizens, and how we can make it a community-led process where affected communities are part of their own cultural recovery, and also how can we leverage the process of recovery of heritage for building peace and social cohesion, and also truly understanding how people would like to access, use the heritage. Perhaps after a disaster or a conflict, they might find new uses for heritage, or maybe a museum can would become a memorial site. All that we have to be open for those dialogues, and how to facilitate those dialogues with communities and other principal stakeholders is an important skill set, which we hope we will be able to address in the forthcoming training. We will also be basing this training on European and international standards, as well as guidance, with some of which ICCROM itself has created with UNESCO, and some of our guidelines which have been field tested, and are available for free for download in multiple languages, more than 16 languages. For example, our first aid to cultural heritage in times of crisis is a codified methodology for emergency response in large scale, emergency preparedness and response in large scale, during large scale emergencies. And it has been field tested in more than 16 to 17 emergencies, and has helped to train generations of cultural first aiders. You will be learning from some of these cultural first aiders who have first-hand experience of safeguarding heritage, both in peace times and in situations of crisis. You will be joining a growing network of 2,000 plus cultural first aiders worldwide that are spread now in 120 plus countries. And who is a cultural first aider? Cultural first aider is not just somebody who can respond in complex emergency situations to safeguard heritage, but cultural first aider, first and foremost, is a thinking, proactive, humane person who can assess risks, who can identify in any situation, assess risks, prevent and reduce risks, so can work in peace times with his or her community and protect heritage of different types, may specialize in protecting movable heritage or intangible heritage, but has knowledge of other forms of heritage, and is also somebody who's a team player and can teach others and can impart his or her knowledge and quickly train others. We have had cultural first aiders set up NGOs, working with government, improving their own institutional risk management. There have been courses developed by our cultural first aiders, and we hope that you will be also joining this global network, strengthening creative Europe countries risk management in creative Europe countries. Just to give you an idea of how these cultural first aiders have made change, positive change, which we are hoping that you will also do with your post-training project. For example, we had Linda Lenovu in 2019 from Estonia, who worked to mainstream concerns for cultural heritage safeguard into the wider Estonian disaster risk management system. She created an interagency tabletop exercise. My museum is on fire because Estonia has had many fire incidents. So she worked with her local civil protection, engaging all other museums in the country, and developed a national level exercise where others could participate and see how they can improve preparedness and better fire prevention for museums in Estonia and other heritage institutions. She also wrote some guidelines and has developed an academic course. She has trained more than 53 heritage professionals as part of her project. And now Linda actually is a full-time risk management specialist and has decided to actually work as a freelancer. So a new career path. And we also have another change maker in Spotlight here to share with you. His name is Stephen Oyuru from South Sudan. And Stephen actually worked with with the Mahdi and community, and he worked on documentation of intangible cultural heritage, which involved hands-on training for women on dance costume making. And he has trained community members and group leaders as well as elders from the Mahdi community, and this group is very crucial for building social cohesion in South Sudan. And I think Stefan is with us amongst the audience of this meeting, I think, today. And with that, you can find more such stories captured in our Stories of Change, which are online. You can download. We hope to have one publication, one story of change from the Ready Track 1 and Ready Track 2. And just to give you an idea, what kind of post-course field projects that you can, the applicants can think of with mentoring support from us. One is that you could enhance risk assessments in your museum, archive, library, or an archaeological site, or strengthening disaster and climate resilience for knowledge bearers and practitioners for a certain intangible heritage element. You could build a national local team of cultural first aiders to enhance risk reduction, emergency preparedness, and response capacities. You could develop and test innovative methods and tools for disaster risk management and emergency preparedness tailored to different diverse heritage contexts. You could improve coordination with local, national civil protection, disaster risk management, and climate adaptation departments by conducting joint risk assessments or training sessions. Other possibility could be digitally documenting a traditional knowledge which could be used for disaster risk reduction, and ensure that you are also somehow transferring it through educational workshops or embedding it in school curricula, and that would be such a service to your community. You could develop a national and local system for post-event damage and risk assessment. Even think of making a risk map for movable and intangible cultural heritage in your region. And emergency, you could actually think of emergency documentation, salvage, and rehousing of a damaged heritage collection. Your project idea could also center around a functional disaster risk management plan for movable or intangible heritage element. These are just some ideas. Your project could be something more than this. And to make sure that your projects are interesting and that you get a lot of ideas. We are very happy to unveil this list of partners who have already joined the Ready Track 1 as technical partners. They will be our technical partners in Track 2 also, and this list is expanding. So we will be bringing you experience, case studies, good practices from all of these partners, as well as we'll be building this Track 1 training on the solid experience and the foundation that ICCROM has in the area of disaster risk management. So with that, I hope this has given you some idea of what the training is going to look like. I hand over to Mohana.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you so much. If I feel like applying myself, so I hope you are all very enthusiastic about applying to Ready. And with that, I would like to walk you through the application process, the form, which might be overwhelming. So we will slowly go through the form, and we will also share some tips and tricks to make a good application. So I hope you can see my screen, both my screens. So I will have on one side the application form, and on the other side go section by section to explain how you can apply and how to navigate this form. So just to, again, refresh our minds, who can apply? As Aparna mentioned, we are inviting applications from professionals who are actively safeguarding traditions, knowledge, practices, collections, historic buildings and sites. We are inviting cultural bearers and community leaders who are committed to protecting at-risk heritage. And we are inviting, of course, civil protection, disaster risk management specialists, fire risk management specialists to apply for this course. It is a fully funded training opportunity, which means that the in-person components of this training will be fully funded and supported by ICCROM. What we do need from our applicants is a passionate heart and full commitment to join this journey with us. So a feature of the form is that in the first step, you need to meet the eligibility criteria to unlock the form. What are those? First, we would really appreciate if you read the call for application, because it really details out the different phases, what is expected from participants, what are the kind of topics that it will cover, the learning outcomes. And this will help you to also understand help you understand the project timeline and to make that commitment to join us for the successful implementation of the training. Once you have read through as you can see in the form, you have a short brief, and the full call is also available on ICCROM website. Once you have given a read to the call, the first question that we ask is whether you and the case study that you will select for this application is from the following countries. This is a list of the Creative Europe program countries, and we will be addressing this region for this course, and the list of countries are also given. So once you select any of these countries, you will be able to unlock the rest of the form. In case, because I see that there are a lot of very interested potential applicants in the chat and joining us today from different regions, I think from ICCROM, we would also encourage you to look into other courses which are tailored to different contexts, and take a look at the course catalog, and you will be able to find also solutions and trainings that are tailored for your needs. This one is mostly focusing on these following countries. So once you select a country, you will be able to unlock the form. Before you apply, make sure that you have a clear idea of the case study that you will be working on, and note that this case study might become your field project, or during the course, if you would like to also explore other case study, you can also do that, and we will help you develop those projects during the course. It would be advisable and recommended if you have necessary institutional support, because institutions have to support the field project phase, and also you dedicating your time during the course. So once you have unlocked the form, now you're in. The first section would be personal and contact information. This will help us draw a profile of our applicants. We would like to also know your professional background, your current role in the institution that you're working in. If you have any past experience, that would be a good criteria as well. If you have past experience of working in the field, managing risks to heritage, you have worked closely with the community before. So all of this is very important. So we advise you to clearly explain that here. The next section of the form is your motivation for applying. And as Aparna was suggesting, it is very important for you to clearly explain, first of all, the work that you're doing currently in your role. How does that align with the training, and what do you expect to learn from Ready? You talk a little bit about also the case study that you're choosing, any preliminary ideas of the post-training field project that you would like to do. Please note that the field project will be developed during the course, so it's just a rough idea that you might have. Explain how you will apply the knowledge from Ready into your into the field and ensuring sustainability beyond the project period. Highlight the relevant experiences you have that you will bring in the training and that you can apply and strengthen during Ready, and any potential collaborations that you foresee in, again, strengthening and enhancing your projects. So here you also have some sections where we have asked if you could share some photographs. If it's not available, we understand, but if you have photographs or any other documents that you would like to share that we can use to understand better your idea and your case study, we would encourage you to upload it in these sections. Then the next section is the post-training field project. As I was saying, this is just a draft idea that we need. It's not
Olha,
necessary
isto
that...
tu se calhar não te interessa isto. Mas as
Anna, I think you're... Yeah, sorry. So you can definitely develop and refine these ideas further during the training. But this section asks you just to write down the initial ideas you have. And finally, as I was saying, any additional information will help us to also understand your case study better and your motivation for applying and why you would like to apply for Ready. The types of field projects, I will not go much in details because Aparna already outlined it very clearly. These are the kind of field projects that you might take inspiration from while applying. Some of the supporting documents that can strengthen your application, as I mentioned, photographs, any past experiences of working on heritage collection or intangible heritage element and managing risks to these to heritage would be beneficial. And if you have permissions, which is the final part of the application, any permission is approval from your institution who will be supporting your training as well as the field project, letting you attend the training and also supporting your field project in terms of getting access to the site, getting access to data, and helping you basically implement the projects would be very good. However, in case you're not able to gather such a document, because maybe sometimes bureaucratic processes might take time, if you're not able to gather such documents within the deadline of the application, which is 20th of April, so 20 April of this year, then you just need to make sure that such a letter can be issued after your application has gone through or you have been shortlisted and selected. So just to recap, before you apply and before you click the submit button, before you start applying and before you start filling the form, just be prepared with these kind of documents, a short statement of why you're applying, how the course aligns with your professional goals, so the motivation statement, a brief description. So first of all, recognizing or identifying the case study that you would like to work on, and a short description of that. So its location, its significance, some of the challenges it's facing currently, a preliminary project idea, some photographs, your passport and ID that is important to complete the form, and an endorsement letter from your institution. But as I said, if it's not available, we will be asking for it at a later stage. So after that, you are ready to go. You click submit and we will receive the application. And just for your, for the next steps, once we have received all applications by 20th of April, there will be a selection panel, jury, which will go through all the applications, shortlist, and the shortlisted applicants will be invited for interviews. And in the end, after the interview is completed, we will be reaching out to the selected participants to declare the results. So with that, I stop my presentation. I hope for now, if you have any questions, you can either put it in the chat or we will come back to you at the end of this discussion that we have now, the panel discussion, which we are really looking forward to. So I would like to now invite Jui, who will be moderating the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Mohana. Perhaps before we move on to the panel, I see some questions which are fresh after the presentation from you and Aparna. And if it's okay, perhaps we can address a few of them. So I think one of the main questions, it was by Roko, of what exactly these field projects will entail. So what will we be doing on our field projects exactly? And perhaps Aparna, you can clarify that from your presentation. Thank you. You're muted.
Muted. Sorry, I was multitasking. I was trying to also type while I'm speaking in the chat. So the field projects are, as Mohana also explained, are something that will grow out of your training experience. We have asked you initially just for the parts on risk assessment or risk mitigation to identify a case study site. Like if you are coming from an archive, library, museum, or any other type of heritage collection or intangible heritage element that you're bringing, we would like you to apply some of the concepts like risk assessment to a real heritage, not like something imaginary, because otherwise it will not be very clear in your head how to conduct a risk assessment, or already if you know how to conduct a risk assessment, how to enhance it to predict events like the Valencia floods or the floods in Europe or the LA fires. So that's the part of the case study. Now, if you think you have a solid case study and after the training, you go back to your institution or this case study site, your project could be anything to do with this case study site also. That's one type of a project where your case study becomes your project, post-training project, where you could carry out a risk assessment, a full-fledged disaster risk assessment, or you improve something in the site like emergency preparedness in the site, you improve risk reduction. We've had such examples where participants have either put in a flood barrier or made sure that the place is more secure against fire, theft, things like that. So you could do those kind of things and then show the results. And again, it would be helpful if this is backed by the institution and that the institution agrees that something like should happen. Or if you want to do this in a church, for example, you want to make sure that a church has better fire protection, then the people, the custodians, have to agree to your efforts and also let you do, implement these changes. And again, the funding for this should come from the participants. I mean, we hope that these are not so big projects. These are just projects that you can carry out within your own means. And we will also provide you some guidance for that. Then your project could be also training other people, other cultural first aider, making a team of cultural first aiders. Your project could be something as small as developing a damage risk assessment form and in a different language and for your institution, or creating a system of working with your local civil protection, your disaster risk management authorities. You could also digitally document oral, intangible heritage or some traditional knowledge, and make sure that there is uh, other generations, the younger generation knows about it. You could do something with your local community to engage them in disaster risk management. So all these ideas, you will be exposed to these ideas, and then you'll be given time during the course to develop your project idea. At the end of the course, each participant will be asked to make a presentation on what their project idea is. How are they going to implement some of what they have learned in their own respective contexts? So it's very free. You can come up with an innovative idea, and then we will monitor you over a period of 6 months to see how you have achieved your project idea. At the end of the 6 months, there will be a big online, virtual or hybrid. One of our partners might host this such a conference or a meeting where we will be showcasing the work that our participants have done, the changes that they have brought. So it's not just a training, it's a movement, it's a project which is participatory project where we would like-minded professionals, community leaders from diverse and professionals from diverse sectors to come together and help us build a, community of practice where we can have some very good examples which we can share with the rest of the world. So it's in a way, the course is fully funded. That's why we say it is a fully funded course, but your commitment is the most valuable part. And it will make you, for us, this will bring a next generation of leaders who will be then leading into this uncertain world that we are living in, and will be prepared to deal with complex and overlapping risks. And you will be contributing and helping us build knowledge and address gaps, very crucial gaps. So it's a kind of again, a cause, a mission, a movement with very clear targets. We would like to create a community of practice and train at least 60 to 70 such professionals who will be able to lead the change and and rise up to the moment and what is required within the heritage sector, consolidation, bringing together good practices, advancing our ability as a sector to assess and evaluate risks, to mitigate risks, to prevent creation of new risk, as well as to respond and recover from ongoing, if there are any ongoing emergencies, or from future disasters or conflicts. So I hope this is clear now.
I think so. And I see a lot of questions, but for the sake of time, what we will do is also move to the panel. And if Aparna, Mohana, you can address some of the questions now parallelly and some after in the dedicated Q&A section. Just a related question from Francesca, just to quickly clarify, yes, the field projects can be in any place that you can implement a real field project. It doesn't have to be necessarily the one that you're working on. So with that, if I can take the panel discussion forward, we have a very exciting highlight for you and something I would like to to particularly highlight is when you're getting trained in training programs such as Ready, you're joining a cohort. The video you saw are people that were put in these real situations, and those people from 2014, 16, 18 are still here with us today as partners, as implementers, as people who have taken lead in their countries to make a change. And so today we will have a conversation with 3 of those remarkable alumni of the First Aid to Cultural Heritage training course. Each of them, they represent a different chapter in the program's timeline from 2016 to the most recent cohort developed in 2024 in Ukraine. We've brought them here so you can also see in real time how their personal experiences, insights, and how this training has impacted their work on the ground and shaped them as professionals. Let me quickly start with some introductions. Dr. Manana Tevzatsa from Georgia. She participated in the FACT training in 2016. She's the former head of Georgian National Committee of the Blue Shield and a current board member and secretary of ICCROM Georgia and an assistant professor at the Elias State University. Next, we have Alessia Strozzi, who joined the 2019 cohort and is a disaster risk reduction specialist for cultural heritage, a trained facilitator, and a conservator with a background in papers, books, and photography. She currently serves as the conservation officer at the Italian Ministry of Cultural Affairs. And last but not least, from the most recent 2024 cohort, we are joined by Ms. Katerina Iharova. She's the head of International Cooperation Department at the National Preserve of Kiev Preshchik Lavra and a former member of the National Commission for UNESCO of Ukraine, and currently also a collaborator as a consultant with ICCROM, joining us from Ukraine. So thank you all for being with us today. The way that we will do this is we'll ask you some dedicated questions. We'll also let our participants perhaps interact with you in the end if we have some time. What we really want to establish is how this training helped you in your professional development, as well as how it feels for you to be a cultural first aider and part of this big network that ICCROM has created. So to start us off, the first question I will ask, and all questions are particularly for all 3 of you, if you could just keep your answers short, up to 2 minutes, to save some time, and to also make sure that all 3 of you have the chance to address all the questions. So what motivated you first to apply to this training? So when you saw the call, what made you think this is exactly what I need and what my country needs? And we'll go in the order of the year of training. The most experienced, Manana, then Alessia, and then finally Katerina. Manana, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Joy, for the introduction, and everyone at ICCROM for the invitation. So at the time when I applied, I had already started work on cultural heritage protection in times of conflicts and disasters back here in Georgia, and already had some practical experience, but it wasn't enough, and I knew that I needed a strong base, both theoretical and practical, to support my work. Yeah, and just to know, how this kind of work really works in real elsewhere. What are the best practices? So I wanted to learn more about this field. What are the different approaches, the actors, but of course, at the same time, and if maybe first of all, it was the colleague of mine, actually, that she was on the video that Aparna shared. It was a colleague that took the course prior to me, 1 year before me, and she came back so motivated and engaged that it also motivated me, and we were already working as a team. So yeah, it was like almost like a given that I should also apply and we should do something together as a team. So yeah, so pretty much her also motivation and ideas and the need to really strengthen my base in this field to go on
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much, Manana. That was super helpful. Alessia, you're next.
Yes. So I would say that I want to apply again, after all your presentation. So, because I was working the year before with Aparna, so I knew all the lecture, everything. I went through all the session outline. And so it was such a rich course subject, that they were intertwining, and there was such of hands-on activity. It was very proactive, inclusive. And so this was really like when the next year in 2018 I could apply, I said, this must be my turn. I really want to be in the course and to experience this. This is why it was the big motivation, all of this. And
Thank you
I
so
make it
much,
very
Alessia.
short.
Yeah, perfect. Efficient. Katerina.
Hello all, it is a great honor to be with you today. My name is Katerina. As you know, I am from Ukraine. As you know, it is my country is at war now. It may sound like unexpected, but despite all the grief and losses, the war in my country has become a turning point for many of us, a reason to think everything happens around us and who we are in this world. It has made us question how we can be most useful to our country with our knowledge and skills, and what we lack to contribute effectively. For years, we built our careers and lives reading news about natural disasters and wars in other countries, and never imagined that such situations could reach us. My professional background has always been connected to organizing and implementing international cultural events, facilitating meetings and negotiating agreements with partners. And before the war, I had never dealt with the risk management, but I had a solid understanding of bureaucratic systems, how to navigate them, and how to draft official documents effectively. When war started in my country, my initial reaction was shock and confusion. I didn't know what to do. For the first 2 weeks, we are focused on a packaging and hiding of the museum collections of our preserve. Then I realized that my knowledge and skills were not enough to manage risks for a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That was when I find out about the ICCROM training. This program not only expanded my knowledge and provided new insights, but also helped me understand how international organizations operated in times of crisis. And I'm a little jealous of all of you because the training will open up a new world for you. The practical component was especially valuable, visiting war-damaged cultural heritage sites and learning how to properly complete risk assessments, forms, and documentation. It was a great challenge, but also a really important experience for me. After completing the training, I initiated a review of our institution's treat response structure and helped adapt eternal training sessions based on the knowledge I had gained, excuse me. Additionally, I strongly believe in the importance of building a network of expert contacts through such training. The network can be crucial in establishing rapid response teams to protect tangible and intangible cultural heritage in times of crisis. That's why I highly recommend participating in international training programs, not only to update your skills, but also to broaden your perspective with new knowledge and valuable connections. And I just want to thank you to all of ICCROM Dream Team, but most of all to Aparna, Ju, and Mahona. You're the best. I'm really in love with you, and thanks you again.
Thank you so much, Katrina. You kind of actually already answered also my second question, so that's wonderful. So I'll
You told me I
drive.
need to do really fast, so I was.
But this, so I think I'll drive that question back to Manana. What aspects of the training mainly stood out to you? So once you were selected and you were with us, like, within the training and in the simulations and everything, what do you think you can tell our potential participants what they can expect in terms of training format? And how were you able to, because I see also a lot of questions around field projects, right? How important did you think was this application of what you learned into the field, and how did you manage to apply your knowledge onto the ground? And this is for both you and Alessia. Katerina already touched upon this.
Yes, I think there was a lot that was explained already, and I see, and I also envy the new participants that there this coming up project training is far more, multifaceted and engaging, and but I shouldn't say that mine was not. Ours was likewise very, very complex, and so what struck me most was that. How it was covering so many topics, and okay, the training was long enough, you would say, but still you couldn't go so deep in one topic or the other, but nonetheless it was possible to leave you with a lot of curiosity. So and I should stress the methodology and pedagogy behind all of this. The people who worked on it really knew how to convey these complex and abundant issues to this very dynamic and colorful group of adults. And so I think they really reached their learning objectives. And the practical side, of course, stands out. And you already kind of put these teasers there, and what awaits, and that is always, and in my case, was also most remembering and. Like the damage and risk assessment exercises, the practical, the hands-on work where we were practicing, and also the role plays, the different mock-ups and simulation exercise, that what stays in the mind, and what I didn't have much in that training, and what I'm so excited for everyone in this cohort is that is the part about intangible heritage, the living heritage. So yeah, and so second part of your question is how I used this in day-to-day work. As I said, there were lots of topics covered, and of course we went in depth into some, while others we only touched. So you really, I really made this notes already during the course on what I should learn more about or inquire back home. So in the immediate aftermath of the training, I really started making new contacts, kind of widening our circle of stakeholders, getting to know, who everyone is and how we could cooperate. And that was what I could do. And what Aparna was also mentioning, to become risk advocate. So that's what I really became after the course.
Thank you so much, Manana. Alessia.
So the thing that stood out to me the most is this, that the course itself has an intangible aspect that which slowly emerge, and we can shorten that. You arrived there as a professional, you met other professionals, you have a network of professionals, but you come back home with a network of friends, which makes a big difference. I think it's not a course where you just learn things, but you also, there is much more. And the moment that I realized is that when, we were 16 participants from all over the world, but in particular, there were two people, one from the United States and one from Iraq. And both of them, they had an army background. And I cannot deny that at the beginning, there was a lot of tension in the air, a lot of tension. But slowly, through the training and through the active learning, because all the lessons they have an active part where you actually share, make plans, create. And slowly, one day, I saw them that they were hugging each other. And this was This was the best moment, I think one of the best moments of my life. It was so touching, and I still today, when I think to that moment, this was the moment where I realized that there was not just a course, there was much more. It was really like bringing peace inside the heart of the people. And this to me has completely changed my life, the approach of my life. And in that moment, I realized that this is what I want to do. So, you know, this is, I think this is to me, this is the course that
Thank you, Alessia. I think also the second part of the question was to kind of explain how you were able to take all of this knowledge that you gained and also insights you gained and, you know, apply it on the ground. Is there maybe a concrete example also that you can share perhaps?
Yeah, Alessia? Or
Yes.
So the example that so it's the active listening that has, of course, started to increase also in my professional field when I teach, because of course later on I start to teach more and more because I had a big background of knowledge and so on. So I had a lot to share, and so yeah, this is more or less what I can say.
Okay.
In my case, example, I also, if we go specifically, I also translated a booklet that was also Aparna showed before, so it makes it easier also to share and to widen the practical tool that already ICCROM is preparing for to a wider audience. And also the training itself, it was also the training that a little training created for the region where I am working. So it was also like, this is one of the things that you were also saying before, that, you can also make it, your tailored course for your own specific, which is also, I think, the strength of the course, Now, let's not just talk about top down, but bottom up. What are the needs on the ground, that can be very, very impactful. Yes.
Thanks a ton, Alessia. I'll get a question to Katerina now. Katerina, you're one of the national cultural first aiders team that we trained, that ICCROM and this course trained in 2024. So since you're one of the newer alumni member, could you tell us perhaps how, if and how your insights, your mindset, or if there was a change in your day-to-day work after you took the training, if there was something that a factor that you can take away from the training and say that it impacted your day-to-day work, and what does it translate to in the sense for you to be part of a cultural first aiders team? What does it mean to you?
I told you earlier that we have really big challenge because we are just specialists in our own spheres. So after the training, I just understand that it's not enough. It's not really good enough. So I understand that I think the most important things is new experience and networking professionals from different fields, from architects and ministry employees. We must be universal professionals who understand not only the work with documentation, as I was before with, but also architecture and presentation of preservation of museum collection. That after the training, when we checked the available internal information, it turns out to be outdated, and we updated it with my new knowledge. So that's all because of you. That's all because of situation when someone shows me what we need to do for be better, for just be ready for risk assessments. So it's really important for me, and because of you, it's because of training. That's why we are just talking that it is really important to see another side of the situation with our international partners. That was I want to talk about it.
Thank you, Katrina. I think that is a very important point to highlight, that training such as this, I think also Alessia and Manana touched upon this. It's not necessarily to sit and teach or to simply talk about various topics, provide lectures, and that's it. Trainings such as this, which are multidisciplinary in nature, necessarily facilitate a platform or a space for you to put on another lens that you may not have the opportunity to look from your day-to-day job. So it's those even, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of being together over 1 year of training, and just changing perspectives and looking at the same problem with another perspective. It can completely change how you understand risk and how you would work together and collaborate. And I'm thank you so much for bringing that up, all three of you. I know I'm very sensitive of time, so I'll just go with one last question, open question. Specifically, I'll start with Manana, because Manana, it's been 9 years since you took the training. Is there any project that is kind of, your success story, your favorite, which hinted upon or, was informed a little bit from your knowledge of first aid and from the training? And in these 9 years, you've really, really enjoyed implementing it.
Oh, it's really tough to answer because honestly, this course kind of snowballed every other project that we did at Blue Shield, Georgia. And I mentioned my colleague who did the course before me, and it was her seed funding that was our the project that got us started. And then, as I said, everything kind of grew into one another. And one aspect that I also wanted to mention, like Alessia did, is definitely the value of partnerships and the network. So in fact, we're still to this day benefiting from the network that this course provided and that I was able to build upon over the years. So yeah, it was, I can maybe highlight the very first one because that kind of gave me the possibility to start discussing and start like planting seeds for wider awareness raising about disaster risk management challenges and needs in Georgia, which at that time I was not could not consider as a successful case, but in hindsight, definitely this was a very important project because then step by step, although with small steps, it did lead to bigger projects. So really, and maybe the one collaboration which also is a product of our network and our work together was the work with on the Insight game that also Aparna just highlighted a few minutes ago. This was a community-based tool that we developed together and worked here in Georgia. And yeah, that's the one maybe. But as I said, we're still benefiting, and it's not just to stress that maybe we don't do projects with each other all the time, but just the value of having these like-minded people out there in the world, like one click away, where you know that they have similar concerns and challenges, and you can always count on their advice. That's really a great relief, and that you can always get their advice and exchange and just share. So yeah, that was.
Absolutely. Thank you. Alessia, Katerina, would any of you like to answer that too?
I was like, yes, I have one thing very short. Don't worry, Joy.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, it was like the guideline that me with my colleague we create for the reopening of cultural heritage after the COVID, after the closing. What's it called?
Sure.
Yeah, that one. So, and I remember, there was the guideline that the other people were, our other institution were issuing. There were a lot of reading and so on. So I said, no, this is not possible in an emergency, in such a situation. We need to make a table, like yes and no, what to do. And because of this, we receive a lot of congratulations, but a lot from all the politicians from the market and also from other places in Italy. So this was definitely because of the course and so on, because of the knowledge that they had, and we did also a webinar to explain later on to a wider audience. So that's, I think, was a success story.
Thank you so much. Would you like to say something, to add something, Katrina?
If someone have some questions too, you can leave my contacts so I can answer without that moment.
Absolutely. Being sensitive of the time, I think we'll bring this panel to a conclusion. I think what I would like to take away from this is just inspiration from my end as someone who's just working as part of this incredible team, but looking at all of you and many more that are actually in the audience as well. We have a lot of first aiders in the audience joining us. It is truly an inspiration, and it just shows that projects and initiatives such as READY only aim to facilitate connections and to facilitate the beginning of change makers such as all of you. So thank you for sharing your stories, and they just show how we can, come together, equip professionals to make a difference, even in the most challenging of contexts. So yes, with that, I really thank you. We will open the floor for some questions from our participants. Please feel free to use the Zoom chat or raise your hands. You can connect with any of our first aiders here if you have any questions, specific questions on how they did the field projects or what were some of the challenges that they had to face and so on. So I'll just leave the floor open to either questions to our first aiders or questions to the organizing team. Anyone?
I think they're applying now.
We did receive many questions in the chat, and Aparna and I have been trying to answer them. But if anyone wants to just unmute yourself and ask us directly, please do so.
We have a question from Niels. Can you explain more about the safeguarding of traditional... Sorry, there's another one. Safeguarding of traditional knowledge.
Okay, yes, thank you. So what we will be doing is that in intangible heritage, and we will be having, will be very expert driven, we'll be also like working with people who have had long-standing experience of safeguarding intangible heritage. When we say safeguarding intangible heritage means that first of all, to see if there is continuity of that intangible heritage element. It could be a knowledge system, it could be a practice, and then we have to see who are the practitioners, who are the knowledge bearers, because sometimes you have after a crisis, you have knowledge bearers, but you do not have anybody who transmits, or practitioners. So we have to see both these aspects, and then we have to see if this is a craft or a cultural industry. Are there supply chains? Are there, let's say it's a group of musicians. Are they living in a healthy environment? So it's actually very much directed with humanitarian aid, which is like in the immediate aftermath. Do they have their basic needs of food, water, shelter met before the disaster or conflict? What was their situation economically? How were they placed in the society? Are they marginalized? Do they have enough access to health, to education, to basic services? And do they have insurance as risk transfer? Because sometimes if you are a musician or if you're a small artist, you may have your studio completely destroyed in a disaster. And then what are the means of restarting that work? And sometimes with intangible heritage, unlike tangible heritage, we have this that if the practicing community or the knowledge bearers or people who bear that knowledge or that tradition or culture, if they decide to make it in any other form. So it's not that, if the same tradition continues after disaster in another form or after conflict in another form, it is not seen as a deviation. It's just seen as the resiliency of that system that is generating that, in another form. So in the course, we will be taking participants among real practitioners or cultural bearers, and this would mean through interviews. So it's about humans. So that's the basic difference. It's not about things. It's about humans and how they are carrying a certain tradition or knowledge system. So I hope this makes it very clear. And I'm sure we are going to have a great curriculum with the input of experts from the field in this intangible heritage area. And ICCROM has already worked a lot. I've personally been in Philippines and in other in Nepal and in other places after the earthquakes or hurricanes or floods, where I have worked with some of the cultural bearers and also have gathered experience. And I also used some of the the work together with the humanitarians for developing psychosocial aid, for developing programs for psychosocial aid and livelihood diversification.
Thank you, Aparna. We have one more question. I think it's a quick one. Can interviews or documents be organized in the project to engage with the community and involve them?
Yes. We'll be, as I said, we are planning sessions. That's why initially we couldn't decide to, if all that we want to cover and in a dynamic setting, then it is a 15-day training. But we also realize that many institutions do not, afford that much time, do not give that much time off to their staff. So the training, be ready. It will be intense, and we will be putting you in dynamic situation where you will have these interviews, you'll have a session on oral history recording, you'll have a session, and you will also we have to sometimes warn our participants that in their enthusiasm, when you're working with a community of cultural bearers, knowledge bearers, we have to be very respectful of their time, of creating a right atmosphere so that they don't feel that we are just coming and learning from them and taking away the knowledge. So somehow in the project of Ready, while we are working with our hosts in Riga, we also have to understand if we assess risks for intangible heritage in a certain setting, there is some sort of a follow-up with this community. And that's something that Manana, we had an experience with Manana when we were developing the Insight tool in Georgia, where Manana was very concerned that we go in a community, we ask them which heritage you value, what are your difficulties, and then in the end, we don't do anything for them. That's not what the message is or our work is around. We would like to take proactive steps, and then we would also like you to be engaged with that community and somehow later on together brainstorm how we can help them here and now, but also afterwards. So obviously you will have that chance to engage, but in a very respectful way, and we will also think about how to disengage. Yeah.
Thank you, Aparna. I think last question on a more logistical, aspect by Annalisa. She says, I understood this year's course will be focusing on movable and intangible heritage and the next on immovable. Could you share a little bit more information on this division?
Well, as I said, and also I think it was one of our panelists here, I think Manana touched upon it. So while we do not make a difference between movable, immovable, and intangible, because heritage as a whole is an experience, is a process, especially it's a process when communities are affected by disasters, or before, even as we are facing all these social upheavals, for sure, there's no difference. But in order to get some level of skill and transfer skill, we had very little time for in-person training. So we decided to make a bifurcation. But rest assured, collections, for example, movable heritage. If it's a temple, a church, it's always, objects that are precious or are of, let's say, of religious value will not be without a building. A museum will never be without a building. An archive will not be without a building. So there will be a small component on how building is the first line of defense of heritage collections, whether in a community context or in an institutional context. So there will be some information on how to identify risks to a building, how to enter a building that has been, how to safely enter a building that has been impacted negatively. So there'll be some understanding with structural engineers and architects that we have on the team. Will be our course team. And then in the next one, which will be on immovable and intangible heritage together, there will be interconnection between all these heritage types. And they will also have a module on movable heritage, but it will be a smaller module. More focus will be on the issues on a certain heritage type. So intangible heritage, as you would notice, is in both, because you can never take away the spirit from any form of heritage. And that's the essence of all what we do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aparna. Yes, Alessia, you wanted
If
to
I
add
may
something?
say, actually, the last studies on cultural heritage says that all heritage is intangible. But okay. In a broader sense, okay? In a broader.
Yes.
Right. It's a feeling. Yes.
Now
it's
you
a
will start a
process.
new discussion, Alessia, but a good thought. Thank you.
Well, I think before I hand over to Aparna and Mohana for closing, I can just say to everyone considering joining the Ready training this year, what we promise is skill building and beyond. You gain practical tools, experience hands-on simulation, engage with interconnected knowledge systems, and become part of a strong, supportive network of professionals who are passionate about protecting heritage in times of crisis. So I do hope to see all of you apply. And I will hand over to Aparna and Mohana to close the session today. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juhi. Before handing over to Mohana, I just want to reiterate 3-4 questions that I think are still in the minds of many of our attendees. Number one, the in-person training, after much thinking with our partners, is not going to be more than 11 days. Maximum, it will stretch to 12 days, but not, I don't think so. It will be 11 days. So the in-person training will also take place. We do not have precise dates, but between July 15, after July 15, that's what we have been informed by our hosting institution in Riga, Latvia, that after July 15 and between first week of August, this training in-person part will be held. And preceding that part, there will be a 1-week gap, and we will have online training, which will be basic concepts will be introduced. And if we have a very multidisciplinary cohort, a group from various disciplines, there will be also some glossary, terminology, getting to know terminology in different fields, exploring where we come from. So lots of discussions and, getting to know each other will happen online with some familiarity with basic concepts of disaster risk management, climate change, adaptation, mitigation, peace building, and heritage as a concept, as a process, and its different forms. All that will be part of our online learning. And after that, we hope you will have field projects. For your field projects, sky is the limit. We understand that since you will have to gather resources for your field projects, They can be small, something scalable, something that your institution is backing you for. It can be a small incremental step. It could be as simple as creating a series of webinars or creating some knowledge to developing a local national team. We will even help you apply for some funding. If your idea is very good, you could also, for your field project, collaborate with other participants from other countries. So you could also propose joint field projects. But again, the purpose is that it should not just remain a training, it should become a community of practice where we understand what are the gaps and how do we address them together. We build knowledge together and we really address these gaps together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aparna. We had a final question. How many participants will be selected for this?
25. Because the training is fully hands-on, so more than 25, we will not be able to give you personal attention.
Okay, then. We are delayed by 15 minutes, but I think everyone was quite enjoying the discussion. So thank you for staying on. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your interest in Ready. We are really looking forward to your applications. We have shared the link once again. The call is out on ICCROM website. You can also follow us on social media to get to keep yourself updated about the upcoming events. So start preparing for the application, and we are always available to answer any questions you have. If you get stuck anywhere, please write to us. We will also put our email addresses in the chat. We hope to see you soon again. And again, thank you for joining. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our technical partners. We appreciate your support.
Thank you.